it can be quite the tumultuous journey. So today we're going to dive into some practices that have saved my life for my own mental health while going through deep spiritual healing. Okay, so let's dive in. We are talking today about practices for your mental health during deep spiritual healing. Now, first and foremost, I think that spiritual healing in general is so misunderstood by the collective. On the surface, we're like, spiritual awakening sounds amazing, but before you get to the wholeness of love and light that comes with that level of awakening, there's a purging process. There is a letting go. There is what we call the dark night of the soul. And that is a really tough time period. Like, there's no sugarcoating that. That is a tough time period. You're facing a lot of the things that maybe you've been running away from a lot of your life. You're facing coding inside of you that may not even be yours. It could be from your ancestral line, could be karma from a past life. So all of these things are coming out during a period of deep spiritual healing. And we can literally feel like we're losing our minds. So I want to just give you a little calming words. You are okay. I promise you're okay. And it can feel really, really, really tough. So let's talk about it, and then we're going to go into the practices, and I'm going to give you some things that are just going to create that really beautiful, solid foundation for you as you are moving through this healing and coming out of the healing. Because when you come out of the healing, it's almost like you have Bambi legs. You're like, what do I do now? Okay, I feel better. I can see what I've gone through. I see that I've processed it, but now what? And so we got to talk about it all. Okay, so let's talk first about what's actually happening when we say a dark night of the soul. So a dark night of the soul is essentially a time period during your awakening where you are being faced with all of your ego attachments and things that have had you kind of anchored down to a lower vibration. This is why it's so difficult. So a lot of times a dark night of the soul happens because we've been trying to push the, lack of a better word, wrong way for too long. So when we try to push our own agenda as I know better than God, watch me push forward on this path. When we try to lead from the ego, we have free will. We're allowed to do that. But after a while, life just starts kind of closing in. It gets harder and harder and harder until the point where you are kind of faced to see all of the things that you've been holding on to with your attachments that's creating that really difficult level of life. Eventually what happens is when you try to force your way from that ego point of view for so long, everything kind of blows up in your face and crumbles down. Now, this can feel devastating. And this can be emotional. It's definitely emotional, but it could just be emotional. It could be that the physical things in your life are fine, but emotionally you end up crumbling down. It could be that one specific area of your life triggers that dark night of the soul within you, and it feels as though everything's crumbling down. So if this is where you're at, what I want you to hear more than anything is that everything that is crumbling away is what was meant to crumble away so that your higher self, your higher potential can come through. Again, we've got to think about it in terms of energy, less about the physicality and more about energy. If I'm operating in a lower vibrational energy and I'm holding on to that lower vibration, I am essentially anchoring myself at that level. When that stuff starts getting forced to crumble, my ego is going to really freak out. We all know this feeling, right? Things don't go your way. You're like, oh my, it's going to really freak out. This is triggering that time period where you're having to face yourself. And that's going to be your journey through that dark night of the soul. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I have been through this in a way that's so in depth I understand, is what I'm saying. I understand, and let me be a glimmer of hope for you. Because when you're in it, I understand how dark it feels. When you're in it, I understand how scary it feels. I understand that you feel like you don't know which way to go. You don't know up from down. Just getting out of bed feels like a chore. I understand. So during this time period, there's a few things that I want to share with you that are really, really going to help you out. So practice number 1, focus on the small things. Focus on the small things. When you're going through this deep spiritual healing where everything is getting surfaced for you to look at, the small things are your foundation of life. Now, what I mean by that is like getting out of bed and getting dressed. Just getting out of bed and getting dressed. Not staying in your PJs and sweats all day long. Truth meter, I did that. Stayed in PJs and sweats all day long for a lot of time. I look back on it now and I can see the monumental difference between now and then. I understand that it was part of where I was at. But had I been able to, at the time period, recognize, if I just get up, if you wear makeup, you wear makeup. I go through phases. Put a little makeup on, brush your hair, and put some clothes on. It does wonders for your mental health. It doesn't even matter if anyone is going to see you or not. It just helps you to feel better. I'm not saying dress to the nines unless you want to. Like, if you want to go all out and dress up in some like Pride and Prejudice dresses and like make it a thing, by all means, do that. But the little things like getting up and getting dressed, brush your hair, put on a little bit of makeup, little things. Those of you who are not in a dark night of the soul right now, this might sound very remedial to you, but when you're going through that really deep level of healing, this is monumental. It is monumental. Okay. Also with the small things, move your body, go on a walk. Go on a walk, go on a walk. Like back to basics, because you are moving through. So I want you to think about this, like literally when you go through a dark night of the soul, think about it in terms of the caterpillar turning to goop. You are in the stage of goop, okay? Like just the basics foundation is so important for you because there's so much energy being used for the healing. Like even if you don't have a healing practice, I mean, of course, I highly recommend having one, but even if you don't have a healing practice, this process of having you face every part of yourself, shed out that old energy is like astronomical in the amount of energy that your body is having to use to do that. Do you see what I'm saying? This is why you're so tired. This is why it's like everything seems like the biggest thing in the world. It's just like, oh my God. Oh God. And then parenting during that. Oh my God. I went through it when I became a parent. It was like, what do I do with myself right now? I really don't know. It was a lot. It was a lot. So small things. Get up, get dressed. Make as much as you can, like make it like a fun just for you thing. Do you know what I mean? So essentially, when you're going through a dark night, you're transforming. You're leaving behind an old version of you and you're moving into a new level version of you. When you're right in the middle of it, it's really hard to see that, you know, because you're just in the dark cloud. You're like, what is life, right? It's hard to see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but I promise you there is. So when you're in it, do what you can, right? Take care of the basics. Get good sleep. And I'm going to say this loud and clear. You're going to sleep a lot more. You're going to sleep a lot more. That's a good thing because your body is using so much energy to process out this old stuff. Again, caterpillar turning to goop, formulating an entirely new body. So much energy is happening here. So you're going to want to sleep more. Don't make that wrong. Don't make that wrong. As much as you can, like nurture. If you need to lay down and take a nap in the middle of the day after you slept for 10 hours last night, do it. Don't make it wrong. You're processing. And the thing about this is the more that you embrace these things, the more you embrace the process of the dark night of the soul, the faster it goes, which is what we want. The more you resist it, the more you make it wrong, the more you fight it, the more it elongates, because it's a process of regeneration, essentially. So we're sleeping, we're getting up and getting ourselves ready, and then food, good, nurturing food. Like really taking care of your body, nurturing food. Have your brownies and cookies. By no means would I ever tell a woman that she cannot have her brownie. Like, we need that in our lives. But focus more on like nurturing the body and giving it what it needs. Movement of some sort. When you're going through this time period, like a real intense workout does not always feel like the best thing in the world for you. Go on walks. Is it normal not to want to eat? Yes. And it'll probably be periods. You might have like a couple of days to like a week or so where food is just like you're really uninterested. And then you'll have like a deep craving for something that your body needs. You just really want to be in tune and pay attention to it. Okay, so that's our basics, right? Sleep, get up in the morning, get ready, try to have a conversation with at least one person, get out of your own head, you know what I mean? Like, do that, because that's very, very helpful. And I'll say this too, like, share what you're going through with not just anybody, but with someone who understands. You know, like when I was moving through it, so blessed and lucky that I had people in my life that I could speak to about it. It was still hard, you know, like I could talk to Robert about what I was feeling. I could talk to my mom about what I was feeling. I got sick of myself after a while. I was like, oh my God, I have got to get over this. Like, this is ridiculous, right? Chris said, I've gone through many dark nights of the soul, but this one is so intense. Yeah. So I think that we all go through one really big one. Like one really, really big one. And it is all in preparation. So this will be point number 2. I had it as 4, but we'll make it point number 2. It's all in preparation for the mission, for what you came here to do and who you came here to be. So everything that you're shutting out is so that you can step into that version of you that has a really strong reason for her existence. So it's like, you have to shift your perspective. So this is number 2. You have to shift your perspective that it is happening for you. And I know we hear that in the personal development world, but here's why it's so, so important. Your perspective will determine the frequency of reality that you experience. So if your perspective is, this is awful, this is something has gone wrong, nothing is working out for me, then that is going to create the level of reality where that's true for you. If you want to experience the level of reality where it's like, this is all happening for me. Like, yes, this is intense right now, but my perspective on it is that I am shutting away everything that I cannot bring forward because there's a big mission on my life. There's a big calling on who I need to become so that I can step into that level of life that I know I have felt that call for. And you guys know this feeling, like, you know the call feeling, where it's just like, I have to. You might not even know what it is, but there's something pulling you forward. That is a very specific feeling. Not everyone on this planet has that feeling. I want to just point this out. Not everyone on this planet has that feeling of like the pull, like you have to go through this because you've got to be ready. You've got to get to this point so that you can do what you came here to do. So you've got to have the perspective that what you're moving through right now, as hard as it may feel, has purpose. It has purpose, and it is not forever. It is getting you to let go of all of those old things that are of the past identity, past karma, past coding, past ancestral line, past trauma. It is having you process it so that you can step into the butterfly version of you. The version of you that can go out and truly create that impact or whatever it is that you're feeling called towards. So we got to have that perspective because 1, it's a much better perspective. But 2, in having that perspective, you then become available for the reality where that's true. So number 3, you've got to embrace and allow the emotions that come through. Now I'm going to say it with this asterisk. as much as you can without identifying with the emotion. And that's the big one. That's the big one. My clients, my OGs that are on here right now, they're all like, yep. You have to allow the emotional energy to come through without identifying with it, without making a story about it. Just feel it. This is healing. Feeling is healing. All these personal development cliche things that we hear on a regular basis, there's deeper meaning behind them. If you can just allow whatever you feel to just be there, and turn the mind off. I know, easier said than done. But if you can just feel, if you feel sad and you just need to boo-hoo cry out, do it with no story. Don't go, I'm crying because. Don't go, I feel like this because of that. If that was different, then I would feel better. Don't do that. That's going to keep you in a loop. That's going to keep you stuck. Just feel it. Recognize that it's emotion processing out of your body. Remembering again, when we're moving energy out, it's in your body and it needs to move out. So as much as you can move it out, the better. I am not lying to you all when I tell you there was a time period where I was crying every day. Every day. Why? I don't know. So much coming out of me. It was me just processing stuff out. What triggered it? What was coming out? I don't know. Don't care. Just wanted to get it out. Do you see what I'm saying? So feel what you feel as it comes through, because that's so important for the processing. Again, think about it in the opposite way. If what you're doing is shutting out old energy so that you can be this fresh new vibration and therefore vibrational frequency, if you suppress emotion, which is energy, you are stuffing back down that old energy that needs to be shut out. So whatever emotion you feel, just let it come out. Make zero story about it. Just I am feeling this, it must exit my body. It must come out. Move it out. So allow the emotion of what you feel without identifying with it. Somebody writing these down? We need to write these down. Okay. And then the last part of it, which is in the more transitionary period of once you have gone through the darkness, the dark night of the soul of the spiritual healing, once you've processed the bulk of that and you start to come out of it, your number one focus is authenticity. Meaning your number one is where is my heart calling me to? Because what you've essentially processed out is all the stories of society and the conditioned belief systems and the past karma and the past trauma and the coding of your ancestors. You have processed out all the shit that basically wasn't you. You feel me on this? So as you start to emerge, the question that's the number one question is what's right for me? Where is my heart calling me to? What is it that's starting to feel that little spark of joy? Oh, Lord. My clients that have been through this, the dark night of the soul, the moment of the spark of joy, you're like, oh my God. Because once you've been in it for a while, it's dark and it's heavy. And then when you feel that first spark of joy, it's giving me goosebumps. Oh, ridiculous. When you feel that first spark of joy, you're just that's the light. That's the light at the end of the tunnel. And so you want to nurture that. You want to nurture that spark of joy. What is it that you feel called to? What feels right for you? Who are you? Who are you? You know what I mean? Really get to know you. I've said this before and I'll say it again 1,000 times. You don't know who you are yet. Not even close. You have no idea. Praise Jesus, she has arrived. I literally just said this. So you don't know who you are yet. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how much you think you know. You have not even begun to fully discover the wholeness of who you are yet until you start to intentionally find it, intentionally figure it out. Because the majority of our lives, we are told who we are. We're told. We're told by our parents. We're told by school. We're told by society. We're told by our friends. We're told by labels. Like, we're told who we are. It is not until you go through this process and you shed out everything that you are not, that you then can embark on the beginning of the journey of figuring out who you actually are. And it's fun. That is fun, because that is when your light really starts to come online. That's when that moment of like giving fucks about anybody else is gone. It's like, you're like, I am unconcerned about what that opinion is, or what the world is over here, or what's going on over there, or what Sally Sue's opinion is about the PTA and my work and whatever. You just don't care anymore, because you started to find something that's so real and so true and so grounded. And it's like, nothing can touch that. So you go through this process, and I know it can be so hard, but God, it's so worth it. It's so worth it, because once you start to really get in touch with that light, that truth of who you are, nothing else matters. It's just like life actually begins, because you're no longer distorting yourself to fit in. You're no longer compromising your standards for something that you think you're supposed to be. It's like you fully come into that light. You fully come into that joy. And from there, that's when your power really starts coming online. And I'll say this too, you're gonna start discovering new things about yourself that you didn't even know existed, which is really cool. You're going to discover gifts that you had that you didn't know you had. You're going to discover likes, hobbies, things that you become passionate about you didn't know you had a passion for. New things start to come online because you've stepped into this more authentic, true version of yourself, and it is such a gift from God. So now I will say this, and it's a little bit touchy, but I think it would be amiss not to say it. This process often is mistaken for depression, anxiety, chemical imbalances, something is wrong with me, all of those things. And a lot of times, because our society is what it is and we like to medicate the hell out of things, we end up getting on some sort of medicine that ends up suppressing the process. So, asterisk, I am not a doctor, okay? I'm not here to make medical recommendations. But if it feels right for you, or I should say, if medicine does not feel right for you, trust that. Do you feel me on that? Trust that. I have worked with so many women who were on medication when we started working together, and through doing the spiritual and energetic coaching work with them, they were entirely off of their medication by the time we got done with the container. So again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to make medical recommendations, but everything comes down to energy. Everything comes down to energy. So when you heal the energetic root, the entire system gets healed, right? Okay. And if you're currently on medication, don't quit cold turkey and put yourself in a tizzy unless it feels right for you. But just keep this in mind. You know, if you don't want to be on medication, it is not the only way. That's my TED Talk. Okay. I love you guys so much. We're going to wrap. We were here for a while, but I felt like this was a really important one to do. So I love you. If you're going through this, I promise you, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Practice these 4 practical tips to do every day. It will help you so much. All right, my loves, I love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Goodbye.